The AAC Report is brought to you by Blahut of Realty One Group. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, call Blahut anytime at 407-748-0484. Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Coming up, baseball season has gotten underway. We'll talk about the defending regular season conference champion ECU Pirates with Bubba Rosenbaum of the Sports Objective podcast in just a little bit. But meanwhile, the logjam continues atop the men's basketball standings. And before I interviewed Bubba on this Wednesday evening recording of the podcast, I had the open all produced and everything like that, but we have to take the script and throw it away because UCF comes up with a 89-87 double overtime upset of Cincinnati at Cincinnati. So right now, 22nd ranked Houston in first place, 10-3, Cincinnati 10-4. Houston plays Tulsa. That result will not be available for this podcast. Tulsa at 9-3. SMU's at 8-4. They come off a upset win over the Cougs over the weekend. And Wichita State is at 7-5. And the American is crazy as ever with the UCF upset win in Cincinnati. Honors from last week. The player of the week, Trayvon Scott of the Bearcats, averaged a double-double last week. 19.5 points, 15.5 rebounds, and 2 wins for the Bearcats. The freshman of the week, James Bouknight of UConn. He averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists as the Huskies went 1-1 on the week. He had 17 key points and 8 rebounds in their win over Memphis on Sunday. In women's hoops, UConn 21-3 overall is 11-0 in conference, and for the first time in 253 weeks, they have fallen out of the top 5. That dates back to February of 2007. The Huskies now ranked 6th in the nation. Cincinnati second in conference at 8-4. UCF and USF were at 7-4 going into Wednesday night's play, and the Knights were victorious over the Bulls in the Wednesday tilts. The players of the week from last week, KK Wright of UCF, as she helped the Knights to a pair of victories over the weekend, extending the current winning streak for the Knights to 4 games, which is now 5. She averaged 19.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 3.5 steals, and 2 assists, and wins at Houston on February 12th and at home against Cincinnati on the 15th. The freshman of the week, Tanea Thompson of ECU, and it's the second time she's gotten the freshman of the week honors this season, as she averaged 20.5 points, 2.5 steals for the Pirates in road contests at SMU on the 11th and at Memphis on the 15th. The American Athletic Conference's 88-game football schedule for the 2020 season, including the 44-game conference schedule, was announced on Tuesday. The American will operate as an 11-team league in 2020. Each of the teams will once again play 8 conference games. The top 2 teams in the final regular season standings will meet December 5th in the 6th AAC Championship. The 2020 season will also be the first under the league's new media rights deal extension with ESPN that was announced in March. The season will kick off with Navy at Notre Dame and Dublin, Ireland at the end of August. A minimum of 40 conference-controlled regular season games will be on either ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPNU. So we have to play a little game alphabet soup there. And at least 20 games will be either on ABC, ESPN, or The Deuce. A compelling slate of 6 Friday primetime games and 7 Friday games overall on ESPN networks take place beginning September 4th when UCF hosts North Carolina on ESPN. And the Thursday night schedule, including 5 key conference dates, begin with a September 24th matchup between UCF and East Carolina. A total of 14 of the Americans' 44 non-conference games will be against Power 6 opponents or Notre Dame. Teams from the American will play 4 games against opponents from the Big Ten, 3 each from the ACC and Big 12, 2 against the SEC, and 1 against the Pac-12. And the American has scored 42 victories against Power 6 opponents in the last 5 years. The American Athletic Football Conference Championship, which has been broadcast on ABC in each of the last 5 years, scheduled for December 5th and will be televised on either ABC or ESPN. Tie-breaking procedures for participation in the championship will be determined in May at the American Spring Meetings. Kickoff times and television designations for the first weeks of the season, as well as the season-long weeknight games, will be finalized in May. The rest of the schedule will fall under the customary 12-day and 6-day selection processes. Coming up next, we head to the Diamond to talk ECU baseball when the AAC Report continues in just a moment. Are you tired of the endless money pit of paying rent? Do you have a home you need to sell for top dollar? Talk to the Hometown Advantage award-winning real estate professional and fellow UCF Knight, Blake Blahut of Realty One Group. Blake has proven to produce results and a smooth process for his clients all across Central Florida. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, talk to Blake Blahut. Visit him at his website, blakesorlandohomes.com, or contact him anytime at 407-748-0484. Again, blakesorlandohomes.com and 407-748-0484. Get the hometown advantage by working with Blake.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Fagley reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning at our new time, 10 to 11 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando for Knightline the morning after. Brought to you by Chad Barlaw. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action, and you never know who will show up. Once again, that's Knightline the morning after, every Sunday morning, 10 to 11 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando or TuneIn Radio. Go Knights and charge on.
And baseball season is upon us once again in the college ranks, and we are now going to talk about the East Carolina Pirates, the defending regular season champs from a year ago. Bubba Rosenbaum from the Sports Objective podcast is here to talk about the Pirates with us. Bubba, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Jeff. I appreciate you having me back on the show. Anytime I have the opportunity to talk East Carolina athletics, in this case Pirate baseball, I certainly look forward to it.
There you go. And last year it was a NCAA appearance, 47-18, 20-4 in conferences. They pretty much dominated the American all the way throughout. And here we go into 2020. What are the prospects for this season?
Yeah, going into year 6 for Cliff Godwin, like you said, last year was such a special year. And there's obviously, you lose that star power, guys like Bryant Packard, Spencer Brickhouse, Jake Washer, Jake Agnos, the pitcher of the year last year in the American, a shortstop in Turner Brown, a guy that had started 200-plus games for you at shortstop over his 4-year career. So you lose a lot, and that goes without saying. In those star power guys, like I mentioned with Packard, Brickhouse, and Washer, all of them hit over 300 last year. So not only did they hit for power, they also hit for average. They combined to hit 38 home runs and drive in more than 150 runs. So a lot's gone, but the good news is that Coach Cliff Godwin and this staff have recruited at an extremely high level. While all that star power is gone, you do have an awful lot of talent still in the program, and you still have some star power. You have a guy like Alec Burleson. He's the preseason American Athletic Conference Player of the Year, a guy that, in a lot of folks' opinions, and obviously we're biased, but some not so biased folks from around the nation that we had on our podcast last year felt that Alex should have probably won the John Olerud Award with the job he did in the box and on the mound last year. But in addition to Alec, you also have Jake Kuchmaner returning on the mound. He's a guy that pitched a perfect game last year, the first perfect game in East Carolina history up at Maryland, and he also went 8 2/3 and no-hit ball down in Oxford in a very difficult atmosphere at Swayze Field against the Ole Miss Rebels, and just was literally one pitch away from having another no-hitter to his belt. But so you have those guys returning, and then you have guys like Thomas Francisco, a guy that started 30-plus games a year ago in a part-time starting role. You have a guy like Ryder Giles, who started most every game at third base, and he's bumping over to take Turner Brown's role at shortstop. And then you have some guys that didn't get a ton of playing time last year, maybe started 15 or 20 ball games, guys like catcher Seth Cadell taking over for Jake Washer behind the plate. And you also have Bryson Worrell, who, in Cliff Godwin's opinion, is probably the most just raw talented guy on the team, just in terms of his natural ability, and an excellent athlete, and he's a guy that can hit with power and is really a five-tool player, and he's been starting in center field thus far. So those are some of the guys to keep an eye on, and definitely the cupboard's far from bare for Cliff Godwin and the Pirates, even though a lot was lost from a year ago.
Yeah, so let's talk about Alec Burleson a little bit. Not only is he tremendous at the plate, he is also tremendous on the hill. Quite a player that he is, and certainly well deserving of the preseason accolades.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's a guy, he's an in-state product. He's from the western part of the state, and he's a guy that, as a freshman, he probably performed a little bit better on the mound than he did with the bat. Hit okay, he probably hit about 260, but then last year, after a terrific summer up in the Cal Ripken League, he was just lights out a season ago. With the bat, he hit 370, and not only did he hit for average, he's a guy that was, I think, third on the team in slugging percentage, 23 doubles, which is the team high, drove in a team high 61 runs, and also hit 9 home runs, and then he only struck out 24 times. So you certainly knew what you were getting with Alec Burleson, and it'll be interesting to see how he follows that up this season with people gunning for him. And then on the mound, that's what last year, I want to say he won at least 6 or 7 ball games. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Six and
then he also
2.
led the team in saves with, I think, 6. So he was a guy that certainly filled a number of roles, and a guy that Cliff Godwin just absolutely has to love to have at his disposal.
Yeah, and of course he has some other good talent out there on the mound as well. Jake Kutchmaner and Tyler Smith. So that's quite a good number of arms that you guys got to go out there for you.
Right. The rotation on opening weekend against William & Mary, which was a sweep, it was Burleson on Friday night, and really that had not been the plan, but it became the plan, I guess, in the last week to 10 days prior to the opener because of Gavin Williams, who's the projected Friday night starter, a hard-throwing junior. He's a big 6'5", 6'6" right-hander that can actually hit triple digits, but Gavin had hurt his throwing hand. I guess it was his ring finger on his throwing hand in a rundown drill of all things in practice. So he did not get that Friday night start, and he'll probably be out one more weekend. But it will be interesting to see how things are handled when he comes back. I fully expect him, from everything I gather, to be back in that Friday night role, and then Alec Burleson probably going back to the bullpen into pretty much any role, how they want to use him, whether it's long relief or a closing role. That's one of the things about Coach Godwin. He'll use his pitchers in a variety of ways. He really doesn't have those set roles like a setup man and a closer.
What do you think that the prospects are for 2020? Now, ECU has definitely been the gold standard in baseball in the American. And last year, a big response after losing to Quinnipiac in the opener. They came back to win the next 4 to win the regional, but then were snuffed out by Louisville in the super regionals. And I know there's a huge desire there to get past those super regionals. And what are those prospects looking like for East Carolina this season?
That's one of those things. I mean, just on the surface, you would certainly have thought we would have had a better shot a season ago from the standpoint of some of those guys that I mentioned early on. But just being honest, I've always kind of had just kind of a strange feeling that when we go, that it may not be necessarily when you expect it. Like for instance, that 2016 season, Cliff Godwin's second year, we made that run to really 90 feet from Omaha. Had won the first game out in Lubbock against Texas Tech, and had that winning run on third base late in that ball game. But just as far as this team is concerned, I think the way this coaching staff keeps piling top talent on top of top talent in terms of these recruiting classes, I think it's just a matter of time. It will remain to be seen, obviously, whether this year's the year. The Pirates do have the most appearances of any program in the nation, of the team that has not been to Omaha, and those are 30 NCAA appearances without that trip to college baseball's promised land. So it's something that I certainly feel like it will definitely happen. Whether it's this year, we'll see. But as far as some of the things and cases why this could be the year, I mentioned Burleson, mentioned Cooch Maynor. You talk about Tyler Smith. He's a guy, he was solid a year ago in the Sunday starter role, but he was a guy that a lot of times he would only go about 5 innings, very rarely went deeper than that into ball games. And yes, he only went 5 innings, against William & Mary, but the Pirates had a large lead in that game, and he could have definitely gone longer had it been a closer ball game, and it required him to do so. He allowed just 1 hit in those 5 frames, showed much better stuff and a better breaking ball than he did a season ago, and with that better command, it'll be very, very interesting to see how he pitches the next few weekends to see if he can follow up that William & Mary performance with similar outings. And then as far as the bullpen, Cliff Godwin has said multiple times in preseason interviews that this is the deepest his pitching staff's been since he's been in East Carolina. And again, this is year 6 for Cliff. And for instance, on opening weekend, the Pirates used 10 relievers, and 4 of those saw multiple outings. Guys like Garrett Saylor, a sophomore that pitched a season ago but didn't have the best of results, but he's the guy that Corey Glore, our play-by-play voice, said that when he's seen him pitch in the all-season in inter-squad scrimmages, that he's been really impressed with what he's seen, and then also what he's heard about him from the coaching staff, and then also new pitching coach Jason Dietrich, which I'll get to in a moment. But then you have a guy like redshirt senior Matt Bridges. He's pitching for the first time against William & Mary. His first mound time for Matt, coming off of Tommy John since I guess it was like March or April of 2018, and he pitched very well in the action he saw against the Tribe. And then you have a guy like JUCO Tristan Kimmel, who pitched well. And then Cam Colmore, a veteran arm who the Pirates know they can rely on, had a couple appearances with a lot of success against the Tribe as well. So the bullpen's pretty deep for sure. You have some young guys. Carson Wisenhunt, he's a guy from North Carolina. He's a two-way player, one of several two-way players on the team. Ryder Giles, who I mentioned, is taking over for Turner Brown at shortstop. He's a guy that also filled the closer role a season ago, and he did that very well against William & Mary. He's a guy that came in actually 2 times. Yeah, you heard me correctly, 2 times in one game. And so with that two-way nature that Ryder has, I mean, he was able to bump. I'm trying to remember if it was to shortstop or which position it was, but he stayed in the lineup, and then we needed an out, so Cliff brought him back to the mound in order to get that third out of a critical situation on Sunday against William & Mary. So it's a staff and a lineup that has an extreme amount of versatility, probably at least, just right off the top of my head, at least 4 or 5, maybe more two-way guys. And so Cliff Godwin has a lot of buttons to push and directions to turn when he's filling out his lineup and making decisions in-game.
Yeah, so before we close it out, let's talk about Cliff Godwin. And, you've talked about the 6 seasons he is putting in at East Carolina, and he has definitely done a tremendous job building the program there. And now, Power 5 teams have started sniffing around, which I know the fan base up there is probably saying, go away, leave our guy alone, because he's definitely got to be a treasure up there.
Cliff, after that 2016 season, that's what Alabama came calling, and he obviously shot that down. And then a couple years ago, after the Pirates had a very successful season in which they hosted a regional at Clark LeClaire, the word is that Mississippi State came to Greenville to visit Cliff and discuss their opening with him, which obviously eventually went to Coach Lamonis from Indiana. But so taking a look at things, I really don't think Cliff will leave Greenville, at least until he gets the program to Omaha for the first time, and then who knows, maybe he would leave for an SEC job at that point, but I really don't think he will leave until he gets the Pirates to Omaha. And relatively speaking, he's certainly not getting paid like an SEC job, but right now I know that he's making in excess of $400,000 and probably actually more like $500,000. So he's very well compensated, and we're not only compensating him well, but we're increasing the compensation for the staff and then giving him things he needs to be successful in terms of facility improvements like the indoor hitting facility that opened prior to last season, and then also renovations to the locker room, coaching offices, training rooms, all those sorts of things.
And what is the key ingredient that makes him successful, you think? What do you think that one intangible is?
Well, I think it's his passion for East Carolina and just outside of East Carolina, just generally speaking, I think it's his attention to detail. I think you're not going to do it any way but the right way and his way. And obviously his way is pretty good. It's led to 2 super regional appearances in 5 seasons. It's led to back-to-back hosting opportunities on campus, which and that is kind of misleading because the program did have back-to-back number 1 seeds from 99 to 2001, but did not have a facility to host. Otherwise, they would have hosted 3 years in a row. But nonetheless, the program is looking to host a regional on campus for the 3rd consecutive year. So I just think it's that attention to detail and the passion that he brings to Pirate baseball that really kind of is the tip of the spear to an awful lot that he brings to the table.
All right, Bubba, and why don't you let the folks know how everybody out there can follow you and your cohorts with the Sports Objective podcast on social media?
Absolutely. On Twitter, you can find us at TheSportsOBJ, and on Instagram, we're at The Sports Objective. And on Facebook, and just search for The Sports Objective. You can find us there. And also, we're on YouTube, and we'll put a lot of our stuff out there, whether it's podcast or other videos from games we're attending, be it East Carolina or otherwise.
Well, I do appreciate it, and you, Dave, and Kyle do an excellent job covering East Carolina, and we do appreciate you partnering up with us to give us the latest on East Carolina sports whenever we ask. That's Bubba Rosenbaum with the Sports Objective Podcast. Bubba, thanks again so much for being here.
Absolutely. Anytime you have us on, we certainly appreciate it, Jeff, and we appreciate everything you do with the excellent exposure you provide, and not only for our podcast, but more importantly, the American Athletic Conference. You do an excellent job.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney is our commitment to you at Chad Barr Law. I'm Chad Barr, and as a UCF alum, I am proud to present Knightline, the morning after show, Central Florida's only call-in show dedicated to our UCF Knights every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And remember, if you or a loved one are injured in an auto accident, call us at 407-599-9036 to schedule your free consultation or visit us at chadbarlaw.com. Our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices Altamont Springs. Go Knights. Charge on.
And turning to our baseball honors, the player of the week, Thomas Francisco, first baseman DH of ECU. He hit for 5 for 8 in 3 wins for the Pirates, including leading the team with a .625 batting average along with 4 RBIs and 3 walks. The sophomore reached base safely at least twice in every game and drove in a run in each contest against William and Mary. The pitcher of the week, Liam Eddy of Wichita State. The right-hander struck out 10 batters, allowing only 1 hit and 1 run in 8 innings of action in a 5-1 win for the Shockers at the Northwestern State on Saturday, February 15th. Moving to softball, the player of the week, Zia James of UConn. Key piece of the offense as a leadoff hitter during a 5-0 weekend for the Huskies at the spring games in Claremont, batting an impressive .550 with 11 hits, 1 game-winning RBI, 5 stolen bases, and 10 runs scored. Pretty impressive amount of stats for her there. The pitcher of the week, Mary Beth Olson of UConn, as she rolled in the circle for the second straight weekend to aid the UConn cause, going 2-0 with a .54 ERA while adding a .500 batting average, a .667 on-base percentage, and 5 RBIs at the plate. And on the mound, limiting opponents to a .111 batting average over 13 innings. Moving on to other sports honors. In tennis, the American Athletic Conference Men's Tennis Player of the Week is Marius Froza of Wichita State. The Romanian went 2-0 in singles, 2-0 in doubles, as he led the Shockers to a pair of wins in 3 matches last week. The American Athletic Conference Women's Tennis Player of the Week, Evgenieva Levashova of UCF. She went 2-0 in singles, 2-0 in doubles, as the 16th-ranked Knights won 3 dual matches last week to improve to 6-2 on the year. She earned straight sets wins in singles and a 4-1 win against UC Santa Barbara and a 4-0 victory against Nebraska, and added doubles victories against TCU and Nebraska, and has improved to 6-0 in singles play and a combined 7-1 in doubles with 3 different partners. And from indoor track and field, the men's track athlete of the week is Aaron Bedingfield of Cincinnati. Posted the best effort in the American this season in the 5,000-meter run, clocking in at 13:48.57 to finish 13th out of 81 competitors in the distance at the Husky Classic in Seattle. And that effort was the 23rd fastest nationally in 2020. The men's field athlete of the week, Antonio Ruiz of Houston. He cleared 5.5 meters to win the men's pole vault at the Tiger Paw Invitational in Clemson. The women's track athlete of the week, Millie Howard of Temple, 9th overall in the mile at the BU David Hemery Valentine Invitational, crossing the finish line in 4:36.37, ran the fastest mile thus far this season in the America by more than 3 seconds, and that ranks 17th in distance in the NCAA. And the women's field athlete of the week, Kennedy Marable of Cincinnati, standout showing the triple jump at the Music City Challenge, winning the event with a jump of 12.97 meters, the top effort by any jumper in the conference this season, and that ranks 25th nationally. And before we close up shop on this edition of the AAC Report, as always, we remind you, please follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88, and please like and share this podcast at all of our Knightline Sports Network shows, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been the AAC Report only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.